Can you give us a little bit of an overview of the pain that you've experienced as a follower of Jesus?
Sure, it might take a little while, but I'll try to give you that short, sharp summary of it. Look, I experienced my first real episode of pain when I was following the Lord and we were serving it. My wife and I and our kids were serving at a Bible college called Cape and Ray in Australia. And I was just loving what I was doing and really believed that the next 20 years would be filled with joy as we worked in this place and we saw it grow and develop. But there was a moment in time when I remember my wife walking through the door and she had a look on her face. She'd just been to see a doctor for the third time about a lump in her breast. And so when she walked through the door, I knew in that moment that it was no longer that idea that it was just a blocked milk duct because she was breastfeeding. I knew it was cancer. And that began a journey that was just incredibly unsettling. It was like our whole world got turned upside down and everything changed. And I look back, and that's a long time ago. That was 20 years ago. And I look back on that time and see how that really did shape things going forward. And so we went through a real battle, believing and trusting in God that he could do a miracle. And we knew he didn't always do miracles, and we decided we were going to follow him regardless of what happened. But we hoped, like anyone else would, that there'd be that miracle. And so to the last minute, we continued to pray and to ask God. But he chose that to take her to be with him, and we had to say goodbye in a very painful experience. And the loss and the grief that followed was just heartbreaking and so difficult, not just for me, but for those around me, and particularly three young children that loved God, but still had to work out how could they love a God who allowed their mum to die. So we had to work through all of that. And so that was a number of years of just wrestling and working through that. And God brought us together as a family. But then after that, it's hard to explain, but I went through a series of incredibly difficult things, and each one was marked by deep pain and hurt and loss and grief. And it went over and over again. And I could tell you each one, that would take too long, and actually put it together in a book that I was writing based on the journal that I'd been filling out all that time, as I didn't know how to process all of this stuff that was going on and the pain I was experiencing. And again, to reconcile that with a God that I knew was all powerful and all loving. And yet somehow he was allowing these things to happen over and over again. So I felt like I was living in a washing machine for a long time, just being tossed to and fro. And all the way through it, had to work out how to keep my eyes on God and keep trusting in him, even when he seemed silent.